my ex-husband, who is now my ex-husband, he decided he, quotation marks, needed his own children, so we got a divorce. I wasn't 28 years old. And I thought, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? I'm on the East Coast, I have a house, I have a mortgage, I have a business. What am I going to do? So what do? I go out to a tree in my backyard, and every day for a whole month, with my 2 little dogs coming with me, I howled, I sang at the top of my lungs. I'm sure my neighbors were not really happy with me, but the dogs howled and howled because I don't really sing. But I did, and I started to realize that here I am abusing this poor tree with all the grief that was within me. So that was the day I learned to hug a tree, because a tree is a living thing. And when I started to do that, I said, okay, Roblynn, you're problem solving, you're running a business, and because business still goes on, mortgage payments, as we have pointed out earlier, still happen. So carrying that grief around, I didn't know what to do with it. There were no support systems where I lived. And being the problem solver that I am, constantly, I decided, okay, grief group, support. Okay, how do I find that? I go to the hospital, they don't have one. All right, let's start a grief group. So how do we get people to come to the grief group? That was about the simplest thing I'd ever done. All I did was put an ad in the paper, tell a hospital, I did up a poster, did it up there, and I was leading a grief group. And what did I know about grief other than what I was experiencing? And I understood there are all these kinds of 5 steps to grief. I'm not really sure I agree with 5 steps to grief, because sometimes we get stuck in one and we just stay in one until finally we can leap through to another one. And sometimes we skip this. Everybody grieves in a different way. So I had this group, 12 parents with stillbirths, miscarriages, in this group at my house because, well, I didn't know where else to have it, and I had a big house, so why not? So we all sat around, and the first few times we sat around, it was all about sharing. It was all about giving of yourself. It was all about caring for the people that were in this group, because we all had something in common. And I'm not a group person, so this was a really hard thing for me to try to lead, but I did. And soon I realized everybody wanted something concrete to do. And I'm like, okay. So I developed a grief workshop. Hey, yay me. And then what I did was I developed an exercise book. And that became the basis for our group. And that's what helped the group. It was a 12-week program. I don't know 12 steps, but 12 weeks we went through. And it helped everyone there, including myself. But there was one big difference between myself and everybody else in that group. Everybody else in that group had an opportunity to have another child, or they already had another child at home. But you see, I didn't, and I wouldn't. And I was still angry, because you see, I was abandoned by my 2 sons. I was abandoned by my ex-husband. I was still angry. And I'm thinking, okay, this is still my problem. How do I solve me? How do I not be a wife? How do I not be a mother? How do I find what was inside me? So I started listening to music, And one of the songs that I listened to all the time was Katrina and the Waves, Walking in Sunshine. That's still part of my mantra. When I'm having a really rough day, it goes on. I will tell you that I have worn out 3 of the CDs, and I have to actually special order it now. So when I was doing that, what do you do with abandonment? How do you make your whole self? How do you come back to who you are or who this new person is? So in order to live, I had to find something to solve this problem. I'm all about solving problems. Did I not mention that? So that problem was fix, touch you, fix abandonment. So I looked out into my whole community, and you know what I found? A whole bunch of kids who felt exactly like I did. So I became a foster parent. I wasn't 29 years old. I was the youngest foster parent in New Brunswick. I was single. That's unheard of, by the way, at that time, because I'm much older than that now. I became an advocate for children who were feeling abandoned. So, I don't know if any of you guys know anything about the foster parent situation or foster system, but this is what happens when you decide to become a foster parent. The social workers call you up and say, we have this child with blah, 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 blah. Oh, and then there's this child, blah, 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 blah. And then there's this child, blah, 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 blah. And they're very vague. You basically get their age and something. Usually what I find really strange is they tell you the bad behavior, some of the bad behaviors about a child. And that really pissed me off because I thought, you should be advocating for these children. You should present their best side. See, that's how I thought social workers should work. But that's not how it works. So I said, I choose the guy in the middle. He was the same age as my son, who had passed away. That was really hard. I don't know why I decided on that, but I did. And they said to me, oh, Roblynn, you don't want him. Oh, you don't want him. And I'm shaking my head at them, and I'm like, what do you mean I don't want him? He's burned out 2 foster parents already, and one was fostering for us for 20 years, and they're no longer going to foster. I said, well, how sad is that for them? I chose him because somebody needed to advocate for him. And so he came into my life. And for 5 years, he stayed with me. But I have to tell you a little story about when he first came. The first 2 weeks, I'm going to tell you, they were tough. And I mean really tough. What happens when you get a child who has scurvy in this day and age? So if you don't know what that is, it means lack of vitamin C. Okay? So here he was, this little guy, couldn't brush his teeth because, it hurt too much. He had issues with food. He had a whole bunch of things happening in his life. So usually, well, that's a longer story, so I won't get into that. But 2 weeks after, I had a metal laundry hamper on the top of my staircase that holds the dirty towels, right? 2 weeks after, he picks it up. I'm walking down the stairs because he's having a fit about something. And he comes and he picks up I didn't even know he could pick it up. He picks it up and throws it down the stairs at me, hits me in the back, and I'm down like three steps away. He hits me in the back with this metal hamper. It hurts. It really, really hurts. And I'm thinking, okay, I have 2 choices here. I can do what everybody else does and not stand up for him and abandon him and tell him he has to go somewhere else. But instead, I chose 2. Choice 2. So remember, everybody? Everybody has a choice. And this became part of the music that was in me. I went up the stairs, looked at it, and he's ranting and raving and crying, and I feel like I'm going to cry because, well, it hurts a lot. And I look at him, and I just grabbed him in a hug, and I said, okay, are we done yet?